politics is a very interesting game. There are certain things I never believed I'd witness in this country. I never believed I'd witness Moses Kuria attacking President Uhuru Kenyatta. I never believed a day would come when Ndindi Nyoro, a person who wanted President Uhuru Kenyatta to become a dictator, attacking President Uhuru Kenyatta. I never believed I'd witness Alice Wahome attacking President Uhuru Kenyatta. You remember Alice Wahome and the IBC official. I never believed a day would come when Kimani Ichung'wah would attack President Uhuru Kenyatta. I never believed some members of parliament from the larger Mount Kenya region would actually defend the Deputy President William Samoei Ruto at the expense of President Uhuru Kenyatta. I want you to listen to their latest attacks on President Uhuru Kenyatta as they chart their 2022 political path away from Jubilee Party and the president. Listening.
Kenya parliamentary leaders that we went to intend to use in crafting or coming up with a negotiation framework with the Deputy President William Ruto. So we want to state that Kenyans are a progressive and working, democratic and peace-loving people. The citizens we represent from Central Kenya and its diaspora are an enterprising, patriotic and working community that are sons and daughters who hustle their way to establish some of the most successful enterprises in the Republic. Our region and its diaspora is not only bestowed with these enterprising people, but is also the most productive in revenue generation to government, while also supporting millions of livelihoods across the region. We, however, note that through systematic government actions, mostly designed towards private enterprise gain, our people have been impoverished, millions of livelihoods destroyed. Many of our traders and business people have deliberately been driven into poverty through government policies coupled with unprecedented high indebtedness. Our people have never felt and been this impoverished since pre-colonial Kenya.
Kieleweke people criticizing us for engaging William Ruto into talks. We want to tell them, why are they concerned? They said William Ruto will not be around in 2022. Why are they concerned that we are in talks with somebody they have said will not be around? We are also asking them to go and enter into talks to the candidate of choice. If their candidate of choice is Raila Odinga, the Kieleweke people should enter into talks with Raila Odinga and come and tell the people of Mount Kenya what they have negotiated. As we are in talks with William Ruto, those who want to enter in talks with Gideon Moi, they are free to do so. But they should not be concerned about our talks with a candidate they have already said on record that he is not going to be around in 2022. Why are they concerned?
Murithi, I want to say something. Because we keep on talking about bottoms up. And then we think
I know most of you have really insisted and wanted to hear more about political positions and that kind of stuff. But like you have heard, we are really just only focusing at this point and in this phase on economic growth of the country, on getting us back on track. And once we are back on track, then every Kenyan will be happy. And at that point then, once we have agreed on what will be the economic blueprint, post 2022, then we would be able to determine who, what, where would we be getting what positions and who would be occupying that. So for us right now, we are saying, like we have said in the last 1 year, the conversation in this country is changing and it will have to change. So we are no longer just talking about positions, but talking about uplifting the lives of Kenyans. And that can only happen if we get it right through economics. Thank you.
I think we have been very clear, and I think if you listen to the candidate, Deputy President William Ruto, in his Citizen interview last week, he did enumerate where we came from in 2013. That was just to carry on with the good work that President Mwai Kibaki had established up to 2012-2013. We did well to carry on with that work up to 2017. Then handshake happened, and we veered off that agenda. And it is that agenda that you see we are saying, other than banning our people's merchandise in Nyamakema, Those people expected that immediately after the 2017 elections, because we had promised under the Big Four agenda, a manufacturing agenda, that they had learnings from the countries we're importing goods from, we would transition them from importing into cottage industries and onward to the Naivasha Industrial Park. Are we still on that agenda? We lost track. We went to handshake and BBI and change the constitution. We now want to engage along where the trajectory we had taken. And that's why we said we want to begin from the trajectory that Mwai Kibaki left. We are not saying that the first time the government never did anything. They did well up to a certain point, then veered off the tracks. We want to come back to the tracks, push on with the agenda that we had, the trajectory that we had, that would ensure there's job creation, there's business support, there's enterprise development and free enterprise, so that we end the era of monopolies and cartels.
Thank you.
Susan, you're asking what is our bare minimum in our negotiations, yeah? Politically. Our bare minimum.
Two agendas, economic revitalization and political
interest, yes.
Economic wise, that one is spent. You dealt with very well in your speech. It's spent and
I think,
understood. Now let's talk politics.
Okay, you want us to talk politics? Let me say this. One, and I understand where your question is coming from. Because of what we are accustomed to. If you look at our statement and read through our statement, we have said that we want to change the matrix of how political engagements and negotiations are done in this country. So understanding us from that point, that it is not business as usual, because it is usual business to sit here as politicians and negotiate with another political leader for political positions and for politics' sake, and what will be politically expedient to the candidate and even to us as political leaders. It is that matrix of engagement that we are saying we want to change. We want to put the aspirations and the needs of the people ahead of everything else. And for those of us, if you look at our statement, we have begun by enumerating the problems that our people are living with today. Most of them stemming on undemocratic governance of the country and also the meltdown, economic meltdown. And that's why we said we want to do a two-part negotiation. One that will begin with economic revival. Once we agree on the economic revival, then we can move to the next phase, which is the political interest. Who fits in? Is it person A, person B? To push through the implementation of that economic revival agenda. Therefore, but if we begin by discussing like the others on who should take what position under what system of government, we get it wrong. And that's why we say, as the people's representatives, we carry the aspirations and the needs of the people ahead of everything else, ahead of our own political interest. I know we have been accused since 2017, some of us since 2013, that we work with the deputy president because we want that and this and that position. Those will come later once we settle on agenda number A.
Last one.
It is very dependent on who is on the chair.
Of course, it is dependent, and Moses Kuria has put it very well. I did listen to one of the presidential candidates being asked on one of your TV stations, what will be your agenda or what is your plan in your first 100 days in office? And he replied by saying, in the first 100 years, and I can forgive him for that being a slip of the tongue, that your people are tired. Maybe you can ask me that question in the next interview. What is that to tell you, my friend? Is that this is a candidate who has no plan. We are therefore engaging with a candidate whom the people we represent have already identified as a candidate who has a vision, who has a plan, and who knows what he wants to do for this country. It is now us to come and fit into that question.
Last question. In your statement, you also say that you want to take the country.
Thank you very much, everyone. I'll start with the question about, if I had it well, it's about the deputy president, who is already deputy president. I hope that was already, that was the breadth of the question. And then why not do it now?
What is the basic minimum demand that you will make in your negotiation?
Before I come to that, I'm sure you asked about why are we demanding and yet we are sitting in terms of we have positions already. And you insinuated even the person we are negotiating with is already deputy president.
Yes.
Then why not do it now? I think Kuria partly answered that question, but I also want to reference to you something that was referenced by our presidential candidate on Citizen TV about Mwai Kibaki, who was vice president for a long time. But I also want to go beyond our borders. If you study the histories of countries that we actually admire, and some of the models that we are modeling our economic agenda on, a country like China, prior to 1976, there was a person called Mao Zedong, who was the equivalent of the president of China then. He was the leader of China. His secretary general of the Communist Party of China is a gentleman called Deng Xiaoping. Deng Xiaoping became president of China, a leader of China in 1978. The China we know today in terms of industrialization, the China we know today in terms of economic growth, is on the basis of the policies of Deng Xiaoping, who previously had already served in the government of China, which could only be defined by poverty and famine through the policies of Mao Zedong himself, like the Cultural Revolution and the Proletarian Revolution. And therefore, the economy of a country and the destinies of nations are actually driven by the leader on the seat. You cannot ask the people at the back seat. And therefore, the reason why we are negotiating with William Ruto is because he has a track record from his ministerial duties, from agriculture to higher education, and of course, juxtaposing the same to the answer that I already gave. In terms of our bare minimum, Muriithi, I have to say, and allow me to answer this broadly. Broadly to say that our agenda, I know we are politicians, but we are not here for politics. Our agenda number one, insofar as 2022 is concerned, number one is economy. Our number two agenda of this team is the economy. And number three agenda of this team from Mount Kenya region is the economy. Because our principle is that we would rather be led in a country that is rich than lead in a country that is poor. Let me repeat. One of our principles as this team is that we would rather be led in a country that is rich than being leaders in a country that is poor. And therefore, our bare minimum, so to say, is not the other questions that others have been asking about which position are you getting in this arithmetic. Our bare minimum is the revival of our economy. As I finish up, when you see this team here, some of us have been burning midnight oil in terms of trying to come up with a very concrete economic agenda, very detailed. And some of the areas that we are borrowing from, number one is the Marshall Plan of 1948, after the World War. We are heavily borrowing from it in terms of industrialization. Number two is the Charter of Japan of the 1868. We are borrowing a lot from it. And also, we are also heavily borrowing from South Korea from 1960 and especially to 1979, where exports of South Korea grew by 40% every year compounded. And therefore, I hope I've answered you. We have nothing about politics for now. Everything is about the economy. When our people are smiling and when our economy is doing well, then politics can come later.
Thank you.
I think.
So I think this issue of joint leadership is a very good question, Ogina. But that question expired on the 9th of March, 2018. It is spent. It's a spent question. Because you know very well that the government that we elected before and the government that came after the handshake is different. As a matter of fact, the deputy president has been idle since that time. So he has a lot of unspent energy. Thank you.
Second question.
The second.
Economic.
The bare minimum. I think my colleague and this statement is very clear. Political.
Bare minimum.
I think it is not a priority. We have said about four things. Yeah, we've talked about jobs. We've talked about our agriculture. We talked about trade and export, and we've talked about the infrastructure, the hardware that we disrupted with the handshake. Our water, our roads, our electricity, our health, our education. Once we are dispensed with those ones, you can ask about the political issues.
So according to you, you basically say that you're now speaking about the future. This is already spent.
Yes.
Now, the future includes somebody who is already going to be president. Huh?
Yes.
And the economic revitalization of that area that is Mount Kenya will depend on who is going to be president, the deputy, and the people that are going to help him.
I'll ask
Now,
Honorable
that
Dende Nyoro.
question that has been asked by my colleague Ogina moves into what you have said about the people.
First of all, you know, it is not just about what is our demand. It is also about the character of a person that you negotiate with. Even when we are doing tenders, we start with a technical proposal before a financial proposal, so that you see whether that person is technically qualified, even before you move to the next step. So for us, it was very important that the first selection criteria is about the character of the person that you negotiate with. Now, once now we are satisfied that that is a person you can go on a journey with, then you can put your demands. But if you get a madman or a rogue person, no matter how competent your demands are, you are negotiating with the wrong person. So for us, we had to do some pre-qualification and come up with the right person, so that now we can say, having identified you as a person we want to go on a journey with, now here are our demands. So I think it's very important, because even in a bank, you do not give money or a loan to just the idea or the project. You give to the person, to the manager, to how competent they are, to their experience. Is this a person with a track record of delivering on a promise? Has he supported our cause? And the Deputy President has supported not once, not twice, but thrice. Yeah? Even in 2002, he was on that journey with our current president. So he's tried and he's tested. He's a person we can now negotiate with. But if we now go and say, no, it's simply because somebody is saying, I'm going to do this, what about Akituruka? Itakuwa namna gani? That was why it was important. Let me also say about the timing. Why now? Why now? Because we've been accused of crying, complaining. We have been accused of, just criticizing. Our eyes are in the future. If we get anything from the current government, it's a bonus. Yeah? If we get for the next 15 months, if you get anything from the current government, it's okay. We will appreciate it. It's a bonus. But our eyes are firmly from now on the future, because we can't keep complaining and crying about the current. Another issue, because I know you are going to ask, that is this team qualified to negotiate? If it is about age, Honorable Kimani Gujiri is senior to some of the people in government today, in leadership. If it's about vitality of the youth, nobody is more qualified than Dede Nyoro, who is a young person. So whether it is about age, plus or minus, we are qualified. Nobody is elected by accident. We have got Beatrice Gather here, who was in government civil service for a long time, longer than most people in leadership today. If it's about being, in government, Onabuga Chagu. We have got Alice Wahome, who has been, in private legal practice for a long time. And so do you want to say that the people of Mount Kenya made a mistake by electing these people, that they are not qualified or competent, to defend our interests?